students, and not only from Saddleback, but students from all over the area trying to get to that course. And it's not only the building it is a little bit of money too, because we have to hire new stockroom personnel. We all do take as many as we can. For example, my lab holds 28, and I push it to about 35. More than that, it's just not safe in there. Now, having said that, anyone other than you trying to get in Chem 108 next semester? Okay, here's what you guys do. Wait till I'm done talking, and then write me an email. Say, put me on your fall 2014 Chem 108 wait list.
Fall 2014?
Yeah, our spring 2014.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, that's now. Okay. Yeah, listen to what I mean, not what I said. Okay, and then you guys, I think I only have 3 people on there. If about 10 of you that raised your hand do that, you'll have a really, really good chance. Some of you will move up and you'll be able to register. Okay, so I went to the bio open house. Please put me on your spring 2014 Chem 108 wait list. And do that with the other 2 instructors also, Professor Gianda and Professor Ho. Okay. So I want to talk, yeah?
If we email you like this semester, like right now?
Right now, not right now, wait till I'm done, because I know you guys are all connected. You're all online, right? I see you looking down there like this, right? So.
Okay, and if you do that, then you can get into the...
Probably. It's almost, I can't say for sure, but like I said, I only have 3 on there right now. About 10 of you raised your hand. I usually go through that and get those, okay. And some of you who raised your hand will have moved up and you'll be able to register by then. And if you have any other questions, give me an email. Now, I want to talk a little bit why, Professor Street hinted at that, and Doug Barr hinted at that, why you might want to take Chem 108. I used to have to come in here and try to talk people into taking Chem 108, but they made it a prerequisite now. So So what I'm going to talk about is why that might be a good idea to do that. In chemistry, we start off with thinking about science, and I found this video. I thought it was really cool. If the technology works, I'll share it with you.
There's real poetry in the real world. Science is
There's real poetry in the real world. Science is the poetry of reality.
We can do science, and with it, we can improve our lives.
See, that was really cool. I could just stop here, maybe. Maybe you need some more, if I'm not preaching to the choir already. Richard Dawkins, one of my favorite scientists, says science is the poetry of reality. So to understand what that means, I admit I had to Google poetry because it was a long time my liberal arts teachers would be. But I Googled it and it says that poetry uses creativity in language and literature to express states of mind. So if you think about this, science uses creativity in things like method and reason and mathematics to express states of reality. Carl Sagan's one of the guys in the video. Here's you could read that. So when someone comes up to you and says, hey, I have this stuff, it's called Monavie, and it's $34 a bottle, and it does all these wonderful things for you. Do you believe it based on what the person's wearing? If they're dressed up and have a nice suit, they must be right? Or how do you believe, when do you believe something? When do you think, okay, just because someone says something, is it always true? In science, we teach you the process of not only gathering the data, but interpreting it. And as you guys are going to be healthcare professionals, there's some responsibility, I think, in the ethical system that I use. It comes with that. If someone, a friend or a family comes and asks you, hey, someone said goat's milk is good for me, right? You want to give them, educated. How do we know if something's true? Anyway, don't worry if you get the wrong answers. What happens in here will stay in here. It's like Las Vegas. How do you know if something's true? Evidence, right? We call that data, and then a correct interpretation of the data. So you want to see, well, and don't do this unless you really know the person, because you make a lot of enemies, people. But I would really want to say to this person, I'd maybe take them aside and say, so is there studies where they take one group and give them Monavie, take another group and give them what they think is Monavie, and then make some kind of measurable and record the evidence, the data, and then treat it statistically to see if there's a statistical difference between those two groups? When that happens in one paper, then you could start to believe it. One paper does, you want to see then repeatability. This is the kind of thing that science does. And some good things come out of it. So why learn biology and chemistry? Let me show you, we won't focus on there's some kinds of bad things that come out. This happens because people doing science, people doing health science, people doing biology, chemistry, physics, engineering. Childhood cancer survival rates. Let's look at leukemia, cancer of the blood. What child gets diagnosed with cancer? What are the chances of survival? Look up here. In 1964, they had a 4% chance of survival. Currently, it's about 94%. That's because of people working in the healthcare field, people doing science, people doing engineering. Why? Why will having a background in chemistry help you in biological sciences? I want to show you some things that kind of has to do with educational psychology and how the brain works and how we can learn new things. So when we read, and you guys are going to talk a bit more about this, like someone's going to talk a bit more about
reading.
Oh, they're not there. Yeah, you guys are talking about nursing. Okay, well good, then I get the whole thing.
Right.
Here's what happens when you read. Here's how the brain works. When you read something, a movie starts to play in your head, and you start to imagine it, right? And so you read a sentence, a movie will start to play. Oh, you guys that have, how many people have had, I know I see some faces, guys that had my chemistry class, a few of you. Any of you guys on the student panel? Yeah? Okay, good. So you guys want to know the truth about it, you could ask them. Well, I'm giving my perspective. Hopefully there's not a big difference. You guys know the answer to this, so don't come. Read that. Let's try it. Read that sentence and see what comes to mind. Now, if you're like me, when I first read that, like the movie that was playing is like the black screen that comes on at the end of the movie. Not much there, right? Maybe someone got it. Let me see if I can help you out a little bit. That's phosphat. That's the stuff that they drop on forest fires to help put out the fire. That's phosphat. Maybe not all the way, but then if you're in the, where you work with heavy machinery and construction, you know that big vehicles made by the Caterpillar companies are sometimes called cats. That's the language they use. Does that sentence now kind of make more sense to you? Right? So I gave you a hard one to start with. You guys want to try another one?
Yes.
Good, correct answer. Try this one. Maybe the movie's doing a bit better on this one. Let's check. What color was the tablecloth?
Checkered.
What was it?
Checkered, white, and red.
Amazing. You got it. What else was on the table?
Garlic bread.
Garlic bread? Anything else? Just empty garlic bread?
Olive oil.
Olive oil?
Salt and pepper.
Salt, pepper?
A dipping
Parmesan? Dipping sauce?
10 cents for the tip.
Uh-huh. Well, let's see. How big was the tip?
5 cents.
How big?
5 cents.
5 cents? 2 cents? Yeah. You, you see the difference? Why is that?
They took forever.
No. Not why is the tip so much. Why is it that we did so much better on the second sentence than we did on that first sentence? You have prior knowledge. And that's what's going to happen when you read your biology books after you take chemistry. All of biology is about chemistry. Not one topic that you'll study will go back to anything other than go back. Psychobiology goes back to chemistry. It's all about chemistry. So to understand chemistry, you will do much better in your physiology course. And like Professor Street said, we have data. If you see, like before we made this prerequisite, how success rates, I forget exactly what they measured, something like that. But the year that we made the Chem 108 a prerequisite, big jump and stabilized. I want to give you another example. And you guys that have my class, don't say anything, you know this one. If you know what's going on in this picture, raise your hand. One person, but she was in my class. Let's try another one. If you know what's going to go on, or what's happening at this event, in this next picture, shout it out as loud as you can.
That's my wedding.
Right? Everyone knew. Anyone didn't know? Everyone knew what was going to go on in that picture? Right. Hey, is this a traditional wedding? No, no.
Now it is.
What? Where are you from?
In some places.
New York. I know New York. What's not traditional about that?
It's a southern wedding.
Sleeveless tuxedo. You don't see that so often. She's pregnant, yeah. That happens. What else? Dogs.
The dogs, his best man.
Dogs. How about poor choice of beer?
Trailer in the back.
Trailer in the back. Mullet. Ladies, your dream wedding? Smoking while pregnant. It's interesting. I showed you guys a picture of a traditional wedding. No one knew what it was. Did someone? Sometimes some Asian students will. But I showed you a non-traditional wedding, and everyone knew what it was. Why is that? Prior knowledge again, right? And you must have had some prior knowledge, right, about that, right? So you see how when you have a little bit of prior knowledge, when something comes along that's not exactly what you read in the textbook or exactly like that picture, that's not gonna. What's that magazine? The Bridal magazine. You're probably not going to see this picture in Bridal magazine, but you all recognize what that was. And so this prior knowledge is like a rocket strapped to your back. You see the huge difference? I didn't give science examples because I wanted to do it with something that you guys were familiar with. In chemistry, to understand something, you have to be able to tie it to something that you already know. That's how the brain works. I try to do that in my chemistry course. I try to tie some new concept into something that we already understand. Here's an example of the way we do this in our chemistry course.
Dissolution of salt and water is the process of breaking down sodium chloride into the conjugate ions. Sodium and chlorine, very tightly bonded. It's an ionic bond, very difficult to break, but what happens is multiple water molecules acting in concert will actually replace that single strong bond with multiple weak bonds. Just like the sodium and chlorine molecule, an athlete and his wife are very strongly bonded when they're in the minor leagues. When the athlete signs that major league contract, he's thrown into a sea of bimbos and money. The bimbos will actually work in concert to separate the athlete from his wife. At that point, the wife becomes strongly attracted to the money.
We try to have fun in the course. We'll talk about what is chemistry, and there's actually, when you study chemistry, that's what you're studying, the study of matter and the change.
Myself to meet a chemistry professor. Check it. So, what is chemistry?
So, chemistry class does not have to be real boring. You've got to cover some material, but we'll try to have fun with it.
Do you know who I am?
No, I can't say that I do.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Really?
We're going to study these things called chemical reactions, and in the course I'll try to convince you that they're kind of a big deal.
3, 2, 1.
A couple of different chemical reactions going on there. One of them is real simple. If you still don't think it's chemistry and chemical reactions are a big deal, how about this? This is a kind of a strong argument, right? I would consider photosynthesis, right? It's a series of chemical reactions, so you're going to want to know about that. And out of this comes medication, medical devices. This is a glucometer, the first home analytical test that you could do to measure your blood sugar level. When you go get a sample taken from you, it goes off to a hospital. It goes off from the hospital to a clinical lab. This is what the inside of those clinical labs look like. Who developed these machines? It's health science professionals, engineers, chemists, biologists. You could make fluorescent animals, as if you need a reason, other than how cool is it to shave a rat and turn a black light on.
I actually
See it
did
glow.
make
Which species?
I made the green fluorescent.
A GFP mutant, green fluorescent protein mutants. You'll learn what animal?
And mice.
Mice. Well, you'll learn why we do that in Chem 108. There's a guy who did it with this animal, won a Nobel Prize for it. All metabolism, it's all about eating. It's all about chemistry, and we study these processes. And after taking the first part of the class, general chemistry, organic chemistry, and then biochemistry, this is actually our last chapter, and you'll see this totally different. You won't see the citric acid cycle as something on a piece of paper with a bunch of arrows and a bunch of letters bound to each other with lines. It'll mean something to you. We'll learn about large molecules like DNA, sugars, proteins. So you'll learn some of your biochemistry. Talk about it in this film.
Mom, I really like this. Cute. What's it made of? Wool. Like from a cow? Uh-huh. Duh, Ashley. All wool comes from a cow. Does cashmere come from a cow too? Uh-huh. The boy cow or the girl cow?
If there's any place that could really use a county fair, it's LA.
The boy cow. Oh, okay. Oh, you mean the one with the tusks?
The LA County Fair.
You don't want to be like that. there is chemistry involved. Chemistry is one of the tools we use to do science. And there's no math prerequisite. I try to give you guys all the resources you need if you're a bit behind in math. So don't worry about math. Like Professor Street said earlier, come in there with you just ready to do the work. Let it be my problem. If you do your half, I'll do my half. We could actually get some help from.
Okay, well, I'm just glad you called me, girl. Oh, baby.
The girl, I'm totally out of my set right now. I can't help you with your homework.
Well, what am I supposed to do? You told me to do my homework.
Give me the books before you lose your tongue. Give me the book.
You know the answer?
I'm not going to give you the answer. The Bible says in 2 Corinthians, 39th chapter, 27th 42th verse. If you teach a man how to fish, the man who sells boats will be happy. He'll be a blessing. If little Tommy rode his bike 4.3 miles a day, 5 days a week, for 5 years delivering newspapers, if he dropped 22.7 newspapers every quarter of a mile, how many newspapers will little Tommy have delivered if he only worked 3 days a week instead of 5 days a week?
Well?
Call Tommy, honey. I don't know. Listen, I got an old bike in the garage with some old newspapers out there. Go out there and put the newspapers in there and just start dropping my 3 and 5 years. Just let them know to come up with.
I ain't got that long. I need some help.
Go upstairs and call your tutor on the telephone, honey. She said you behind and she would have to go call her.
No, I ain't calling her. I don't even like her. I ain't doing that.
Honey, when I tell a child to do something in my house, it ain't no conversation. It ain't no negotiation. They get up and do what the hell I told them to do. I got a problem I want you to solve. Okay, Tony? This is your problem. Medea told Tony to go upstairs, 13 stairs, and call 10 digits to get some help with her homework. Tony said she ain't doing it, sat back on the sofa and folded 2 of her arms and rolled 2 of her eyes. Medea grabbed Tony by 2 of her ankles, dragging her up the stairs, hitting her head on every step. How many bruises will little Tony have by the time she gets to the emergency room at Grady Hospital? Then get the hell upstairs.
So hopefully I've motivated you and maybe lowered the intimidation level of chemistry a bit. You could ask some of the students who've been through the class in more detail, but maybe some of you guys have some questions for me about Chem 108. Can you take it to summer? Yeah, you can. You've got to be out of your mind, but I know you might be able to be one of the 2 students who can do it. We do it in 18 weeks in the regular semester, and we cover a lot of stuff. We do it in 6 weeks, so 1/3 of the time.
We've done it for 8 weeks.
Not Chem 108, because the instructor likes to have a lot of time off.
We did it in 6 weeks.
You guys, some of you guys, was it the same?
We worked
Yeah, just
6 weeks, but we both got names.
just don't take any other classes.
Yeah.
Don't plan on a social life, and don't sleep.
That's right.
We would spend hours and
Freezing so we're studying.
The way my course is, other instructors do it differently. In my course, it's kind of backwards. What we do is all the lectures are on streaming video, and you watch those at home and take notes. And then in class, you do what traditionally was called the homework, where you could work with your friends and classmates and get help from me. So it's kind of backwards. For most classes, you do go watch a lecture and then go home and do the homework. 9 o'clock and no one's around. That's how we used to do things when I was in school. I was in 6th grade in 1970. How long it's been? Other questions? Oh, since I'm a chemistry instructor, it would probably be remiss if I didn't offer you guys at least one chemical demonstration. Should we blow something up?
Yes. Besides our eardrums?
No. Maybe with the light. When I get ready to do this chemical reaction, then you can turn off all the lights. Last chance to get our kinesiology handout.
Yeah, get Mike's flyers before Jim pours them. Here, I'll move.
I'm just kidding. Hopefully that won't be
And
very
then after
bad.
this explosion, we have Linda and Dean Donna to talk about the nursing MLT HIT. After that, we do have a student panel and refreshments just right outside.
So I poured a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, propanol, common name, rubbing alcohol in here. And we're going to do a reaction called combustion. And gases combust better than liquids, so I just kind of roll it around and coat the walls so it has a high surface area so the liquid evaporates quickly. And I'm going to remove the excess liquid.
Is it going to explode?
Yeah. But think of it as a controlled
Hold on to
explosion.
the little ones.
And that wasn't a G-rated video clip, was it? Sorry. Notice what I'm doing. I'm removing the excess fuel from the vicinity of...
You're safe back there. It's okay.
Probably.
Just duck behind a chair.
All right.
Ready?
Yeah.